announcements. This meeting is being recorded, will be uploaded online. Participation is in accordance with Open SSF Code of Conduct as well as SSF policies for the yeah, let's get started. Let me open up the agenda unless someone has it up. Okay, yeah, I think we don't have, it doesn't look like we have anything active on the agenda. I think CSAF Community Days and KubeCon happened last week, so maybe let's just spend some time chatting about that as well.
I have a small topic at the end if, but again, I would leave it to the end.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, go ahead then.
So I'll be short. Yeah. So Jens and I were at a CSAF Community Days last week. It was a small event, 50, 60 people, but highly technical. Everybody from the a technical committee and so there's definitely uptake in using CSAF for advisory and VEX. I think what we found out is that most of the people are struggling as we do with the correlation and matching between the products and components within the advisories and actual components. So there were some discussions about trying to do something like that, open up in the community and try to figure out the basically the algorithm and some integration tests that can confirm validity of the implementations in different ecosystems. Trustify was demoed. It was also without our knowledge used in a workshop they did a couple of days before for a few days before the actual meetup, and that then went well. So that's also some good news. And there was a little bit more talk about using CSAF for stuff other than software vulnerabilities, so like safety recommendations and things like that. But also there was a little bit of chat about defining security standards for AI apps. So like, is CVSS scoring enough? Does CV and CSAF as they are be able to support us there and start defining some work in that area? Yeah, overall, yeah, I think pretty good experience.
I'm kind of curious, what was there like? Was it mainly like what companies were there? Were there like a range of companies, big and small, or mainly big companies?
Yeah. So in my impression, it was Europe centric event, right? So there was a lady from Microsoft that's running the Patch Tuesday program there and is a representative in the CVA program. So Microsoft basically started adopting CSAF recently, and they see a lot of downloads of the advisories they are producing. So still not sure, about the origin of all the downloads, but it's being used. Beyond that, I think my impression is it's mostly basically run by the government institutions. So the German Ministry of IT Security, the BSI, they are the big contributor to the CSAF standards, and as far as I figure out, they are basically sponsoring and investing in a lot of these companies building products around it. So both publishers and the consumers of the security vulnerabilities and advisories. So a bit of smaller companies, yeah, be from Red Hat, Microsoft, Huawei. Yeah, Siemens was big, so there's also they are adopting it as well, so and using it. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else? If not, I think we can.
I'll send the link to the event. I think all the recordings of the talks and slides will be available there shortly. So a lot of interesting.
Awesome. Mike, go ahead.
All right, give me 1 second here just to move some slides. I mean, not slides, to move some stuff over. So I can share my screen here. So I know we talked a while back about you know, hey, are there ways for us to maybe run OSV ourselves or whatever? There was some discussion also at KubeCon around some challenges with OSV as the database for a lot of stuff. And I know, you know, GUAC uses OSV for a lot of different things. So while at KubeCon, I rewrote OSV. And I also got OSV so running locally.
You should write Hack and News post about it.
Well, let me wait till I clear up some of the bugs first. I'm sure, and to be clear, I'm sure there's some bugs, but just to kind of give you an idea here, like, so here's me using normal OSV. It takes like you know, 4.5 seconds or whatever for a reasonable project. And then I can run it locally. And you know, it's about like 4 times, you know, it depends exactly, but running it, you know, it could be quite faster depending on caching and yada yada. And there's probably a lot of other things I can do. I'm mostly doing some pretty naive stuff. And then also for the sake of you know, testing some of this out, I've also deployed this to vulns.lol, which is the domain I have for this. And so it's still pretty fast here. And just, I think if I run this, yeah, so again, I think some of this is because, hey, OSV like the API for OSV.dev, depending on how it's getting hit, can take a while. But I think, so anyway, as far as I can tell, I'm getting mostly identical results, at least for NPM, most Semver stuff, as far as I can tell. RPMs, I need to maybe do a little bit more testing on Debian, but my initial testing shows that like Debian epoch packaging should also work there. And I hope to maybe open source it. I need to talk to OpenSSF a little bit about that, but just kind of wanted to you know, show a quick demo of some of this. So I forked OSV Scanner for the time being. So it's under LOL Scanner for I'll type it out here in chat. If you give me just 1 second. If you go there, you can go and like clone the repo down and rebuild, build it, because right now the existing OSV scanner doesn't have the ability to sort of point to other OSV APIs. It only will ever point to just api.osv.dev. But this should, yeah, anyway, as far as I can tell, again, I'm getting identical results like 65 vulnerabilities, 65 vulnerabilities, yada, yada. I'm getting identical results. But again, I haven't tested it exhaustively, but at least all my initial tests seem to indicate I should have parity.
Are you getting the data directly from the sources, or you're using the OSV data?
I'm using OSV data, so I'm quite literally just pulling down from the bucket and generating the database. And generating the database takes, I don't know, like 3 minutes, I think, to fully build out the OSV database from scratch.
So you're just querying their database, or
Oh no, I'm actually pulling down OSV. In the OSV bucket, right? There's all these JSON files that are essentially all the raw data of the in OSV schema format.
gotcha.
And so pretty much all I'm doing is running some, database processing that will, generate some indexes and a couple other things and put it in a good format that's optimal for sort of querying this sort of data.
Do you have any plans on how would you update data once, after the first initialization from the...
Yeah, so some initial tests I've done, it shows that speaking to the OSV folks themselves, they update the bucket once an hour with any new updates. And they have a spreadsheet that like gets updated with like every hour, like, hey, here's all the updates from this hour or whatever. And then you could just pull down only those files. And then updating the database is not super long. It's like still probably like, even if there's only 3 or 4 things that get updated, it's still probably like 20, 30 seconds to update just because it has to regenerate a bunch of indexes and yada yada, because it's optimized for read, not for write. Which again, I think is actually okay, right? For this sort of use case of like, hey, this data only updates once an hour, spending a minute, updating the database and indexes and all that stuff seems like totally reasonable if the speed is much faster. And like the thing that also I should point out is some initial testing of just hitting the API, not using OSV scanner, and doing some like optimized batch queries is like probably about 100 times faster. And again, like this is, I'm sure I'm doing certain things wrong, and I'm sure I'll find like some critical failure here, but there's probably, again, I think the idea here would be, we're trading off a little bit of like, yeah, it's annoying to make, or not annoying, but like, yeah, maybe it takes, let's say, a minute to update once an hour the indexes, but you're getting like significantly faster read times. And then also the other thing that's nice about this is we could run this in an air-gapped environment as long as you can like get the updated OSVs ingested once a day, once an hour.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
I guess one question is, are you think this is more kind of like a way to query the OS, like optimize querying the OSV service, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So again, like we run a lot of queries against OSV internally. you know, for our customers, for example. And one of the things we've discovered is as we scale up, it begins to get super difficult to query the public service. Like as an example, hey, a full query against, let's say, 100,000 packages can take several hours sometimes, compared to running this locally where it's like, oh, it maybe takes like a minute or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And again, like I think it makes sense, right? Like it's a public service, it's getting slammed a lot. Like there's all sorts of rate limiting for lots of different purposes. Yeah. So that's like one, you know, one reason. You know, there's some other reasons which are just also, I think the air gapped use case is also a big use case of, hey, I can't query the public data set. Or sorry, I can't query external. So is there a way for me to run something like OSV internal?
Yeah. Kind of curious whether like, I know the Anchor folks had some scraper to pull like MVD data. You know, if this is, it sounds like it would be great to have that NVD data set as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely on the list of things we can add to it. I want to chat with OpenSSF a little bit more because I know that they have some thoughts around building something like this, and so I want to just check with them before and see if like, hey, I'd be happy to open source this, but I want to make sure um it makes sense and everything.
Awesome. Cool. Do you want to talk a little bit about any highlights from KubeCon?
Sure. I will say, and I know this is one of the challenges we've had is at our booth, we had a lot of folks stop, not a lot, but like we had a reasonable amount of folks, like a dozen folks who've stopped by and were like, oh yeah, we built out a POC with GUAC internally, and we did this with GUAC internally and blah blah. A lot of folks moved off of GUAC for various reasons, but I think one of the things that's still a challenge is like getting folks to actually talk about, hey, we actually used GUAC internally, and here were the things we liked about it, here are the things we didn't like about it. In addition, CNCF is using GUAC in production right now. They are using it for license management because it can, give them the sort of deep analysis they need to sort of say, hey, whatever CNCF project, did you know that one of the libraries you're using just rug pulled and you now need to move off of this library? So that's something that's, that was an interesting conversation.
Do you know where this is surface? Like, is it something that we can share more broadly
Which
to
one?
show?
Yeah, the CNCF stuff. Yeah, you can definitely talk about, hey, internally the so for example, Gphy, Brendan.
No.
So it's Jeffrey Sika.
Oh, Jeffrey, yeah.
So he's the one who's like helping lead up the project, but Mario from Kubermatic is he's the one who's actually doing the work. And what's, interestingly enough, again, he was like, yeah, after like, it took me, a few hours just to kind of sort out GUAC and understand it a little bit better. But now that I have it up and running, it's all, self-service. It's all super simple to use. All the same criticisms though of like, yeah, the GraphQL API is not the nicest to use and some other stuff. But, he did say, hey, it wasn't super hard. And he does say he wants to kind of chat with us a little bit more because they do want to make something like a public GUAC. For stuff. But I did say, hey, let's chat on some of that because I want to make sure that like what are the, we've never really sort of deployed this out at that sort of scale. So I'd be curious to know what they're trying to do with it. So I think that's all the GUAC related stuff. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Ben, did I miss anything?
You're super quiet, Ben.
Oh, Ben, yeah, sorry, you're barely audible. Nope.
How about now?
Yep, much
Yeah.
better.
Okay. Apparently the little boost button got unpressed. Um, the other feedback we got was just around a lot of projects. The SBOMs don't build very well with SPDX tools, and so they're not being properly ingested into GUAC. And so one of the things we talked about a little bit about is like, well, Cyclone DX is produces better SBOMs, but also there's sort of like the political issue because SPDX is under the LF. So if we can do things to improve our support of substandard SBOMs on ingestion, or at least provide better documentation for users to help make sure that they're building SBOMs that work correctly. I think that would go a long way for them as well too.
Do you know, because I think like the SPDX spec has like room for interpretation. There's like it's not ambiguity. Do you know which tools they produce the SBOMs with, so that we can like or do you think they'll be able to offer some SBOMs that they found difficulties with?
Yeah, I'm sure he could share some. I don't remember. Mike, do you remember if he mentioned specifically what tool they were using to generate those SBOMs?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I
Okay.
know just sort of generally folks have like, for example, there's still no Golang SPDX3 support like over a year after
Oh,
it's
you
after
mean
SP.
you
Yeah,
mean
well,
the not support for GUAC ingesting those SBOMs, but just support for
yeah,
okay.
so I think like there's like a big challenge, which is just the challenge a little bit being that the tooling around SPD, like generated SPDX SBOMs, just sort of generally is not great. And generating SPDX SBOMs is not great. Like we're finding that a lot of stuff that is claiming to generate SPDX SBOMs don't actually generate them to the spec. And that leads to issues with GUAC. And then separately, we're finding that like even stuff like, hey, SPDX 3.1 is coming out, and there's still no Golang support for SPDX 3. And so even if folks were generating SPDX 3 SBOMs, we can't ingest them unless we wrote the library ourselves. I know Perco is looking to write this library, but it still feels like, you know, it, I kind
There
of,
is
I
a
would love to, yeah.
there's a version of like someone wrote based on the I was tagged on this. Well, on a separate note, right? I don't think Keith or I have had any bandwidth to work on 3.0. So if there is a way to find someone to implement that, that would be good. But I believe someone implemented um, a parser and generator based on the shackle stuff.
Oh yeah, they did, but the problem is that it doesn't it's a very low level like
Yeah, you have to really know the spec in order to use it.
yeah, and so there's no, like there needs to be a higher level like client library that sort of actually does all the normal stuff because the way it's set up is like it's like it reminds me of like, when somebody generates an open API library, it's like, hey, if your REST API expects like I do this first and then I do that, like it's like yes, there's a lot of things to just sort of enter stuff into the shackle, but it doesn't really. It's not it's not really end user. It's like sort of the low level bindings.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dayon.
Yeah, just a couple of things. So I think our team will also get involved into maintaining Swift and things like that. So I was wondering, yeah, is Swift used a lot in this ecosystem? And if it is, maybe it would be good to like connect with folks and then try to make that better. Speaking of the devil, hey Michelle. So I think, yeah, generally SPDX3 is seen by a lot of people like problematic. It gets too complicated. I haven't personally looked into it, but I don't know if, yeah, if you need to go there at this point and maybe, yeah, better support current 2.0 for CNCF use cases. And the other thing is would it be possible to get these SBOMs used as a data set and at least internally ingest into Trustify to like just test our stuff as well with it? I think it would be a good, yeah, a good data set to test our stuff with, at least for the beginning.
Yeah, I think Civ does rely on the tools Golang repo quite a bit. I mean, that's why I think that's one of the main reasons Keith got involved initially, Keith Santo. I think I agree with where SPDX3 has a lot of features that are meant, like I think what is being asked for with like SBOMs today and what the SPDX3 spec is attempting to do is slightly different. So in a sense, like I think for EO requirements and all those kind of things, so like CRA requirements, the SPX 2.3 spec probably would be fine. But I think the trio kind of looks towards more like, oh, it's kind of like we are representing the entire ontology. We're making things like even more expressible, so that we are able to express basically the entire supply chain, not just like dependencies of a library. And it fixes a couple problems here and there, right? But I think that the information flow that would be, which SPX 3.0 can help realize, like all the detailed information from builds and from like every single command line run or different actors interacting with things. I feel like we don't have that information yet. And I think at some point we'll realize that once we have the information, then we can encode them and then use them in like Trustify or GUAC or something. I think Trio was kind of like it is a Trio spec, but it was also like the understanding that I think either 3.1 or 3.2 would be the ISO one. So that it was still like, oh, we know there's gonna be a little bit of changes there. But yeah, I think I agree that there should be support for that in the tools Golang library. Yeah, I think that'd be helpful. I think today only it's like mainly Java. Java is supporting it.
Cool.
Just to give you a little bit of like the reasons why it's not implemented today, is one of it is because I can think the PR, but the SPDX 3.0 spec uses kind of like an inheritance model, and inheritance just doesn't work nicely in Golang. So there is a pull request here. Let me link it. I put it in the meeting notes because I can type in chat here. Basically showing like, oh, if we wanted to create the inheritance, either we would have to like copy every single field into every child that inherits from it. Usage. So there's like a lot of trade-offs in the usage. It doesn't look pretty. Unless I think like you have some super complicated reflection that handles the inheritance logic there. But yeah, I think some of it is just we have to either bite the bullet and say that, okay, we're gonna have a little bit of trade-off in the usability, but get something out first. And maybe we can figure out the usability story later on. But at the same time, once you put out an interface and people start using it, you can't take it back. So I think we are cognizant of that.
Yes, so I think just to recap, if maybe we can, include somebody from our side to at least look at these issues, and if any contributions can be made to support this, and on the other side, like if we can get access to the initial data set of SBOMs and see how Trustify behaves with them, that would be also great. So yeah.
I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. Michelle, anything from you?
No, I'm coming up to speed. I'll find something about. Let me go through the notes and talk to Dan after. We can talk about generation issues, SBOM generation stuff. So cool.
Or if not, since it's we are all here, I just wanted to check in again on the webinar. Is there any next steps for that?
Not much news there. So I was busy with the CSAF phase last week, so I need to catch up with a bit other stuff. The plan is for me to send Ben the agenda.
Okay.
I hope I'll do it, soon enough. So ball in my court.
Okay, sounds good. All right then. I guess we all have about a bit more than 15 minutes back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.